Okay, so Dmitry Bivol put on a masterful performance against Lyndon Arthur, and the first thing I want to talk about is Bivol's use of lead foot pressure, which set the tone of the fight right from the very start of round number 1. As you can see, Bivol immediately comes forward leading with his lead foot first before bringing the rest of his body forward with him. This serves the purpose of putting the pressure on Arthur because this puts him in punching range where both guys can be hit. I talk about in many of my videos that the lead foot determines the distance between two fighters. It's not the head nor the gloves, but actually the lead foot. So Bivol stepping his lead foot into punching range threatens the taller, longer fighter in Arthur, who likes to keep his distance, where he could land maximum range jabs from the outside, and Arthur is forced backwards into the corner as he desperately tries to maintain distance from Bivol. Also, Bivol gives plenty of feints, level changes, rhythm steps, and probing jabs as he's stepping his lead foot forward to make his pressure more effective as these things keep him unpredictable.
This is a lot of pressure being applied by Dmitry Bivol. It's foot pressure and presence. And his foot pressure is the most impressive thing. Look at how wide his stance is. And his front foot is already in the door, but he's not committing to any punches. So that's just pressure. That's just physical pressure that Bivol's applying.
However, you can't just pressure forward all night without expecting some kind of retaliation from your opponent. The thing is, the best weapon to neutralize an aggressive opponent applying a lot of pressure is the jab. The jab also happens to be arguably Lyndon Arthur's best punch. So as Bivol pressures Arthur, it's likely for him to expect a lot of jabs coming his way. The thing is, this plays into Bivol's game plan all along. Bivol is applying pressure to bait out Arthur's best punch, his jab, just so Bivol could counter it by splitting it with his own jab and neutralizing Arthur's best weapon. You see, as Bivol pressures forward with his lead foot, he's inviting the jab from Arthur, and as soon as he sees any movement from Arthur, he knows that a jab is coming because it's the most likely punch that will come. So Bivol just automatically slips it and counters it with his own jab. And here are some more examples of Bivol inviting the jab with pressure and splitting it with his own jab. Some of these examples he even counters with a left hook, but you begin to notice that the jabs are coming less and less from Arthur as the rounds go on, since he consistently gets countered. The thing is, as Arthur steps in with his jabs, Bivol also steps in with his own jab, and this increases the damage of Bivol's counter since Arthur is walking into the punch with his face. You see, as mentioned before, the best tool to stop aggressive pressure is a good jab. However, Bivol is countering Arthur every time he throws the jab, but then this causes Arthur to become unwilling to throw the jab since he keeps getting countered. However, he still needs the jab to stop Bivol's pressure, and so this becomes a vicious cycle that just continues on and on. Once Arthur's jab was neutralized, Bivol was able to more consistently pressure Arthur to the ropes, undeterred by jabs, and Bivol was able to just tee off on him. However, the most important detail of this whole strategy by Bivol, and if there's anything you take away from this video, I want it to be this. It's that Bivol was never reckless with his pressure. His goal was to bait out the jab, and in order to do this successfully, he needed to stay at a range where the jab is the most logical choice for Arthur to use. But at the same time, he needed to get close enough to put the pressure on Arthur and back him up. And with Bivol being the shorter fighter of the two, Arthur wants to stay at his own maximum punching range so he can hit Bivol with a jab and Bivol can't reach him back. So by Bivol stepping his lead foot into his punching range, this causes Arthur to either step back to create the range again, or try to fight Bivol off with a jab, and both options played right into Bivol's game plan. Brilliant boxing. I made a video in the past about Dmitry Bivol's signature move, which is his rhythm-building pendulum jab, which he uses in almost all of his fights. It's a move that's very susceptible to being timed and countered by an opponent, but Bivol is very successful with it because he's very clever at using it when his opponents are either resting or resetting, so they can't counter back. Here we see Bivol do the same thing against Lyndon Arthur. He comes in with a rhythm-building pendulum jab, which Arthur actually slips to the outside, since like I said, it's susceptible to being timed. Bivol then takes a rhythm step back to avoid the lazy counter from Arthur, and counters the counter. Now it seems Arthur expects this to be the end of the sequence, and takes a quick mental checkout to reset. Bivol likely senses this from Arthur, and like I said, is exceptional at landing the pendulum jab when opponents are resting or resetting, and from there, Bivol tees off on him when he's on the ropes. The same thing happens here. Bivol comes in with a jab, and then rhythm steps away from the counter from Arthur, and it seems Arthur doesn't realize that the end of Bivol's rhythm step brought him back into punching range. And it seems that, again, Arthur thinks the exchange is over, and so it seems like he takes a mental break right in punching range. And so we see Bivol take advantage and land the pendulum jab. Here we see Bivol enter with a right hand feint into a left hand which comes up short, and Arthur responds by trying to circle off the ropes responsibly with his guard up. However, after he's done that, he takes a moment to rest and reset again, in which Bivol notices it and shoots the pendulum jab on them. So like I said, Bivol's signature pendulum jab has the con of being easier to see coming and timed by opponents. It does have the benefit of being a very powerful punch since there is momentum built up. And Bivol is extremely effective at utilizing this technique when his opponent is resting or resetting so that he could catch them off guard and be unlikely to counter him. And lastly, Bivol's pendulum jab becomes even more effective when he mixes it up with a left hook around the guard to create a jab-hook mix-up. You see, Bivol conditions his opponent to defend against the jab. The thing is, the jab is typically defended by parrying, so once his opponents preemptively parry when they see Bivol coming in with the pendulum jab, Bivol switches it to a hook midway, looping the punch right around the guard. This mix-up is so deadly because Bivol makes both punches look exactly the same in the beginning. This leaves them guessing on which punch to defend, where the wrong guess could end the fight. And that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you everybody for watching, and special thanks to my GOAT tier patrons, Jason Mahinan, Grant Gabriel, Albert Chen, Gosala Geza, Marshall Bott, Jesus Galindo, Tall Lane, Jal Stroll, Micaiah O'Sullivan, Nyan Valdez, as well as my channel members Lucas Miller and Hot Pocket Maestro. You guys keep the channel going, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you all for watching.